It's quite jarring to part with a belief that both absolves you from failure and simultaneously keeps you chained to feeling like a failure. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the kind of mental process that I went through in order to better position myself to not feel broken, to not give in to the feeling of helplessness. And that really has changed the way that I approach recovery, as well as, or I would say more importantly, the way that I approach life. If you're new here, welcome. If not, welcome back. My name is Heidi Vega, and this is where I provide insight into my journey through recovery from disordered eating as a certified holistic nutritionist and certified personal trainer. So let's get started. I think that there is such a thing as over-identifying with your problems. So normally when we're talking about over-identifying, we are talking about in reference to people and things outside of us, events outside of us. But in this case, I am speaking to over-identifying with something that we may see as a part of ourselves, but actually isn't, and that is our problems. When we have dealt with the same challenge over and over again and can't seem to fix it despite all efforts, we can easily begin to assume that the challenge is somehow inherent to our story, our personhood. This is especially true when we find that others, whether it's online or in real life, aren't having this problem. Or maybe more impactful is that they do have a similar problem and have overcome it. Now, these are some things that I put together that might be signs that you are over-identifying with your problems. So number one, thinking that you are broken in response to recurring challenges or disordered behavior despite efforts to change it. Two, continuing to place your life on hold until the challenge is overcome. Number three is kind of related to number two because it's about making this problem the one that all other problems are built upon. And the last one is feeling compelled or obligated to allow your perceived problems to direct your attention and energy instead of it being the other way around. There's no way to see myself beyond my issue when I approach everything from a problem-centered position, if that makes sense. It made sense when I wrote it, so if it doesn't make sense when you're hearing it, that's a you problem. Just kidding. Now, if by this point you're anything like me and you're realizing, oh, I am kind of over-identifying with my problems and making them the kind of focus of my life instead of the things that bring me joy and make me feel good about myself, about my future, and I'm just kind of getting into this weird place, then the answer is definitely not to just then ignore your problems. My point isn't to go into the opposite direction with this. It is rather to focus our attention back on the things that we do want, the things that bring us happiness and light and joy and excitement. And honestly, that's hard to find. Now, part of the reason it's hard to stay mindful about what it is that you do want is because we live in a world where problem solving is king. Society has become so conditioned to immediate problem solving answers that when we have an issue for which the solution is not super straightforward, it's not very easy, it might take time for you to unfold, we become super frustrated with ourselves and look outside of ourselves and say, why does everybody else seem to get it so quickly? And we obsess over finding answers because we feel that answers are at our fingertips, instead of allowing life to kind of unveil some of those answers for us in a natural kind of through experience type of way. Whatever you feel like is holding you back in life, I'm not here to tell you like, this is how you fix that. I'm reminding you like, well, there is you beyond that problem. You do exist far beyond that problem, and you are not your disorder, whether that's an eating disorder, whether that is relationship issues, whether that is intimacy problems, like intimacy, whether that's pronunciation issues. Like, if you don't begin to focus your attention on what it is that you actually do want out of life beyond your problem, not making your problem the end all be all, the reason why you can't have it, why you can't have this, why you can't have the life you want. If you don't start to focus some attention on something that brings you joy and meaning. You're catching me in editing mode, which means that I missed something that I feel is vital to this video, and so I'm having to course correct like this. So just bear with me for a second, but I genuinely think this is an important caveat to all of this. When I continue to present the antidote to over-identifying with your problems to be starting to focus on what it is that you do want, I'm not speaking to materialistic kind of vain things. I am asking you to do something much more personal than come up with a 5-year plan. I'm asking you to look deep within yourself and start to think about what a meaningful and fulfilled life would really look like for you, and how you would show up. I don't think it's about how life necessarily will look like around you. I ask, how does it feel? How does life feel? How does walking in your shoes feel? The reason why I say it can't be something simple as like, I want to hit 300,000 subscribers. Like, that's what I do want. The reason why that can't be it is because what you will find is, whether it's a problem or whether it's a goal, if you put all your eggs in that basket, what will end up happening is, as soon as that problem is gone, or as soon as that goal is overcome, you will feel a void. You will feel an emptiness that will call on you to revert back to that problem, or to revert towards a different, new, shiny, new goal. And just kind of finding an inner peace is something that I think will allow you to fulfill yourself, to create a meaningful life for you, that you can look back at the end of the day and not say, I was just trying to knock each goal down, or I was just trying to overcome this impossible problem that I have. But it amounts to something much bigger. So yeah. All right, back to the video. I say this from experience. Specifically within my recovery, because the story began for me as not being skinny is the only thing that's holding me back from living the life I'm meant to live. That was my story. And then when I realized I had an eating disorder, it shifted to my binge eating disorder is the reason why, is what's holding me back from the life I'm meant to live. And then when I realized that my binge eating was kind of brought on by this restrictive mindset that I was having, this real visceral desire to be smaller, all of those things, once the severity of my binge eating pretty much disappeared, I'm no longer binge eating, right? Then the new story that came in was that my disordered eating, because I was still having some disordered eating, even though it wasn't to the degree of binge eating, is the reason why, my life isn't what it's supposed to be. So then that was kind of where my story had stopped, because I started to notice my emotions aren't dictating kind of what I eat, and I feel very kind of in a happy, in a normal place with food. the self-sabotage started coming in, and I'd be like, okay, so now what though? If I'm no longer having some type of disordered eating, what problem is anchoring me to the life I'm living? What is keeping me here? And here not being like here physically, but what's keeping me from doing the things that I keep telling myself I can't do because of my problem. And so finally, I realized for me that it was more recovery, really was more than just not having an eating disorder. My recovery really had to be something bigger, something that can sometimes provoke an uncertainty. As I acknowledge that my dreams, the thing that kind of pulls on my spirit, is maybe a bit bigger and more wonderful than I was ready or brave enough to admit. So I believe most of us are truly after a meaningful and fulfilled life, and that we kind of do have inklings of what that is and how to get there, or maybe where to begin. But I think often we allow what we have set up in our head as the story of our life, of why we are how we are, why things are the way they are, to be kind of almost limiting in a sense. Focusing back in on what I do want out of life, what I want for myself, has been what has given me the greatest kind of movement towards feeling more like myself. The conversation stopped being about who I didn't want to be, and it started being about who I do want to be. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I have been trying to write this script for a really long time, and I've been having a lot of writer's block recently. Like, I can't seem to express myself very well recently. And so now I'm trying to do that. Oh, the baby's doing the baby thing. All right, well, thanks guys again for watching.